Hey there, Kevin Manthei here. This is really fun. I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cues to go through, all using Ghost Koil. A couple of them also have a little bit of solo violin thrown in, so you can hear a little bit of how that goes with some organic textures. And then also I'm using a couple of basses from our latest library, Signal Drift. So let's jump into it. So the first cue is called Ambient Freak. So it's using 2 pitched menus and then a loop menu. So let's check that out right now. Okay, let's unpack that a bit. It's called Ambient Freak. So the cue starts out with this fish tape brutalist pitched menu. There's some unique performances in here that are still pitched. We're on this E flat. So that's the sample, but an octave lower. Here we are a little bit faster. So there's the 2. And if you roll them a little bit, they can kind of play at the same time. That's the idea. And then there's also some low end too. Okay, so that's the idea for that one. And then we've got these long bows created from a saw. So when it said fish tape, you know, like that long tape that you actually use to pull wires through tubes. Electricians use it. I have it for my studio because I have these troughs that are built down below my floor, and then they've got these big tubes in them. And so sometimes when you already have a bunch of wires in there, you got to fish through the next wires that you want to add to your studio wiring collection, which we all have a lot of wires in. What I did was I was like, well, I was just really curious to know if, like, what would that sound like if I actually bowed it, and it was pretty incredible. So that's why it says fish tape. We're not going fishing. And then the next one it's that we're looking at is the saw long bows pitched. Now these, believe it or not, are saws in my garage that I actually bowed. There's some really great lower stuff. You can see how this is kind of the bass. Some really cool textures, but it's all pitched, you know. So, you know, you can expect the pitches, but they're hard to categorize because they don't really act nice all the time. These ones are actually a bit more mellow, so these are nice. And so and then also, you know, with all of our stuff, we have our mod wheel, which can go from less affected version to a more affected version. So right now we just went to the more affected. And then you can see down here too, this is expression 11. So expression 11 is we have it controlling a filter, so it's just opening up as we push that expression forward. So the cue, or the patch, actually has a pretty sharp strong feel to it, but you just pull that expression down, and now we're just in like softer, more muted territory. And then the final one was this loop created from different saw elements. So the same kind of thing here. I'm using volume and an expression 11. These do have mod effects on them, so let's check those out. I didn't use that for this one, but then mod wheel up. Okay, so that was that cue. The next one we have, I called it Creep Creepy. Again, only 3 patches here. We've got that same saw long bows pitched, and then we've got a new one, the screw harmonics pitched. That is an incredible patch. And then we've got the spring zinger bowed pitched patch. So let's check it out. Okay, let's check this out. So we've already listened to the long bows pitched from the saw. Let's check out these screw harmonics. Bowing these screws on actually this instrument right here that I created that has screws screwed into wood at various lengths and various types of screws. We're able to get some really interesting harmonic pitches. So I treated this one kind of like an old creepy 70s kind of horror movie. That's kind of what I was imagining. It's like, it's really sounds kind of like string harmonics, but there's something about it that's almost like an organ too. And it has almost a sing-song kind of feel to it. So these are really fun to work with. And then, like the other patches, this one has a mod effects version. Just a little more airy, more built-in verb. A little more dry on the mod wheel down. And then, so you can see how shaped the cue with mod wheel and expression. And really, it's really about this patch. It's kind of through composed, kind of treating it almost like a strange piano. And then the last element was this spring zinger bowed pitch patch. So they're kind of almost harmonics in a way too, aren't they? And then so the low stuff was coming from the saw. And okay, so that was that one. That was called Creep Creepy. Now this one's kind of fun. I was just playing around with some, well, you'll hear it. Okay, so we took the famous Beethoven song, Every Child Has to Play, on the piano because it's so awesome. Made you realize this library, what it can do with pitches. It just really creepifies it, makes it a little bit off. All right, let's move on to Night Patrol. Now, Night Patrol has two basses from Signal Drift, so you see those down here. All right, so that's Night Patrol. So this one has a couple, just two sounds from what we had earlier, but then pretty much everything else is news. Okay, let's check out these Saw Scrapes Velocity menu that has a TRP on it. So it's got the mod effects, which brings us from one effect on the bottom of the mod wheel all the way into another effect on the top of the mod wheel. And the TRP stands for transposition. It allows you to do is to take any of the sounds that are in the menu and instantly transpose them up an octave or down an octave. So right now, here's... So that's the beginning of this. And so you see down here, this little C here, that's going to trigger it. And that's the natural or the normal way it was sampled. Now, if I want to play that up an octave, I can just do it this way. Or down an octave. Or anywhere in between, you know, just down a minor third. So you can see over here, I went from a C up to an E flat, which means I'm raising it now by a minor third. So suddenly now you're able to relate with this material in a way that you can control it, and therefore you can transpose, and you're not just like brought into this like, oh, that's a cool sound, but I can't manipulate it any further. You certainly can here. So then the next thing we have is the saw percussion. Let's just check that out. So we just kind of created again, we've got the pitch here. So you can see this was the original pitch, this C, and then we put in the key switch for the low C. So here's the normal one. But now I had it down an octave. So let's see let's listen to the pattern that I created here. And it's nice and soft because you can see that the expression 11 is slowly bringing it in, because I wanted to slowly introduce this because this is like a long, slow burn you can see with this material. And then I really use the expression 11 to shape it and to bring it up and then bring it back down and bring it up. And this one is also a mod effects. So you got some toasty, distorted stuff, and then back to the normal. And also, you know, you can go in between the mod wheel to find the mix that you want between the dry and the more affected. Okay, so that's that. That just kind of does that slow burn with the expression throughout with the mod wheel in its down position. And then we got some kind of effecty pulls here. Let's see what this sounds like. Okay, cool. Let's hear that in context. almost like a suspended cymbal, but with a interesting sound. And then we got this spring low pulls too. That's a menu patch. Yeah. So we did that with a lot of expression, and then these window spring bowed atonal longs. So the first few looked like I used the same one over and over, but first one was mod wheel down, and then mod wheel up brings in the other effect. Cool. And then we got some more percussion, and this was kind of designed to just help get everything moving. So it's 16ths, and then they're just getting louder. We're just using volume to maximize that. I got two pads here. Let's listen to these two pads together. Okay, in context. Okay, and finally we've got these fish tape horror shorts, which are really cool. Alright, so I like that one. Just use it over and over. Nice kind of scrape kind of thing. And then we've got it activating on an A flat. Let's find this note here. So there's the note. And then this is the way it was sampled, but then we pitched it up a bit. And there you go. So here's normal. And then we pitched it up about a sixth. And there you go. A lot of these, as I was writing, I was actually manipulating things in real time with the engine. Meaning, let me show you. So for example, this fish tape horror shorts, it comes out of the box when it's shipped. Well, it comes just like that. The engine is really great at being able to add additional effects on the fly. Just clicking on the delay and adding a convolution. I mean, quickly turns it into kind of whatever you want, maybe some distortion. Saturation. So you can quickly get a sound and further produce the patches that we have. Okay, let's move on to grave mistakes. Okay, so this one started out with this feedback drone called Mistaken. And then from there, I just orchestrated a little bit of extra window spring bowed pitch menu. And so that gave it some interesting tonal stuff on top. A lot of the drones, too, interestingly enough, they sound really cool up high. So, yes, they're drones, but also, well, let me show you how this works. So here's the drone just with the mod wheel up, and then just playing around up much higher. Just got that really cool. So playing around with that little motif, and then just playing it a little bit lower. And these are drones, for the most part, are very long. They just take a long time to percolate and just really give you a lot of playground to play with. Let's look under the hood on this one, see how long this one is. So this is over a minute long, this one drone. So here's the original, this F sharp here. What's great about, when you have these really long drones is, let's say you're playing something up really high. It's just, you're going to have still so much time where it's going to be a unique sound the whole way through. It's not going to repeat. And these, we do have our drones on looping, so there you can see that one of them looped. It's like an overblown flute kind of sound. It's cool. I really like that one. Okay, then we have this grave scrape. Let's check that one out. So this one I just used a low C because it's got so much character in it. Let's check out that one. So that one's called grave scrape. A lot of these drones, I utilize some of the ways that I created the feedback drones library, which was to bring in feedback along with the performance. So I was performing scrapes in real time while also having some feedback on in my room and just turning up the volume in a really slow, methodical way that would introduce feedback, but in a very musical, strange kind of way. Obviously not the kind you like to hear when you're at some sort of presentation and the mic just goes, you don't want that. So here we have, this one is about a minute and a half long. And something that's really interesting for people who aren't afraid to click the wrench, which is to take your start point and just move it somewhere. So we would want to be on the dry for that, the dry layer, and we just move it. And now suddenly we have a different timbre that starts out the process. And if you're like, oh, well, why is it popping like that? That's because our attack here, we can make that like that. Like a long attack. So now it feels like a drone, but the drone now is starting in a different part, and we're getting essentially a new patch. Kind of almost sounds, now we've created a pad. A mysterious pad. Okay, then the icing on top of this cue was adding the spring bowed pitched elements on top of the drone, the first drone, the mistaken one. So let's hear what those sound like together. They're basically just replicating each other. So you get double. Okay, the next cue is forward progress, and what's unique about this one is I've brought in some violin from Elastic Music, from Elastic Sounds, and they have this violin extended techniques library that I was using just to double some lines and just show how easy it is to put in some acoustic orchestral elements and how the two pair together. So let's check out forward progress. Okay, so this piece, what I wanted to do is just really focus on pulses and basses and some loops from the library. And then that was basically it. It was pulses, basses, and loops. So let's just check out some of these individual pulses. The cue starts out with pulses, and the first one is the reveal. And then we got on top of that this spring zinger scrapes, which brings us into. Okay, and then we've got the guitar pick pizzicato violin. I love that sound. And then we've got these fast ricochets that we put on, and then a little bit of this ponticello tremolo, real subtle. So let's hear this beginning of this. Okay, and then we have this metal, really soft, this loop metal box that starts and builds. And then we have a bass called the reveal. Okay, and then we have another pulse on top. So all these pulses, they really layer well with one another. You're able to get kind of a nice big sound between all of them. So that kind of goes on for a bit, and something that was kind of fun in this section here was the way that I wrote this track was I wrote all of the synth and the Ghost Koil elements first, and then I just supplemented it down into the violin section. So like, for example, this pulse. So I had that, and then I was like, oh, it'd be cool if like that descending line was also in. So what I did there was I actually doubled it up, so it was more of a 16th note. You can see how I did that. And then I also brought it down into the Bartok pizzicato. And so then that section. So then this bass reveal also sounded pretty good up high, so I did these really clustery chords to kind of end things, and so then that's kind of where we got this cool combo between the ponticello and the bass, the pulse and bass. Okay. Okay, now we have Spaceport. Spaceport, I wanted to explore this lead called the Saw Thunderdome. Lead Saw Thunderdome, and also this pulse, the screw harmonics too, with some Bartók pizzicato and some guitar pick pizzicato thrown in. And then a little bit of a bass at the end, and this cool bass called Sawbone. So let's take a listen to this one. Okay, this cue was all about this lead, which started as a improvisation that I was doing. It's called Thunderdome, and it has this really cool delay on it that's from the engine. And it's all sync. It all syncs to your tempo, so whatever tempo you're at. Yeah, it kind of was a swirling pattern. And then I wanted to introduce the Bartók with it to give it a little more definition. And we add a really cool pulse created from screw harmonics. And that's the beginning of the piece. And then it just gets a little bit bigger and keeps building a little bit. We add some guitar pick pizzicato, and then our pulse continues. These pulses are cool because they follow the harmonic language of it. Just really subtle, but and then we kind of get this harmonic shift down here in the lower register with this lead. And then that brings us in, keeps us going, and then I just brought in this bass called the Sawbone bass, and it was a nice little moment with all of these three working together. At the end, we've got the lead again, but this time I add some longer notes instead of short pluckies. It's subtle, but then we also have this rising line here. Yeah, so I find that just, layering, coming up with a simple idea, layering that between the different elements just really creates a unique sound. So here's the last bit all together here. Okay, there you have it. That's 7 cues that I wrote using Ghost Koil, and I'm excited to hear what you guys come up with. And if you want to hear what other people have come up with our Ghost Koil library, go check out our library, triumphaudio.com, and check out all the demos that people have written. And there will also be the patch walkthrough video up there. and other reviews from YouTube people, and there's a lot of content to listen to. But we thank you so much for your time and for supporting Triumph Audio, and we will see you on the next video. Later. Way to go, digital performer. So effing amazing.